I didn't think they did human sacrifice all that much.
Oh.
But this was saying that, maybe. Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your new favorite pop culture talk show where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned.
Hey, it's Hamlet.
It's actually Hamlet's based on this.
No, I know. But
I didn't.
Yeah.
It's Hamlet. This is an actual legend.
They said it's like the thing I read said it's unlikely that Shakespeare ever read the thing that this is based on, but also tale as old as time.
There's 7 stories and they're all in the Bible.
Yeah. Also, you know the priestess lady from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
She's Harkness or Harkin.
And we also...
I was like, I literally just saw that woman in something.
We saw her in something else as well. Cursed. She was in that dumb show Cursed with Catherine What's-Her-Face. Yeah.
I was like the 2004
No.
werewolf movie.
No. Her name was Yiva. I don't know. She's only in 2 episodes, regardless.
Broadly, did you like this?
I did.
Yeah. I did too. I was a little curious what it was going to be when the trailer came out, because it seemed very straightforward. It seemed like a, Viking epic. And I gathered that it was, a very standard epic plot. And so there's a part of me where I'm like, is this going to be straightforward, or is it going to be a subversion or commentary? And for my money, kind of all three.
I don't know how much it really subverted.
Okay, so it wasn't really subversion. I think it was definitely commentary. I think that for me, there's going to be a lot of a certain type of people really, really like worshiping this movie in ways that
incorrectly.
Well, sure, but also in ways where there are parts of this movie that are silly.
Yes. Oh,
like
absolutely.
There's lots of grown men playing pretend.
Yeah.
Which I found to be interesting. We'll go with.
Yeah.
I am a pretty big fan of
Robert Eggers.
Well, the Norse, the Scandinavian.
I thought we were doing another Robert Eggers versus Ari Aster thing.
No, they're the same in my mind. I think I got it now. So because this is Witch, Lighthouse, Northman, and then Hereditary and Midsummer.
Yeah. So it's like they're not doing the same thing, but they are both vibes in the same way.
They're both really, really aggressive and avant-garde.
And so the thing I always forget is that Robert Eggers used to do production design. And so I'm like, every time I remember that, I'm like, yes, that's exactly why his movies work for me when they shouldn't work for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think people who only partially know me would think I would hate this. And it's sort of, I've mentioned it a few times, but it's a part of me that watches the TNT show Animal Kingdom. It's like, I absolutely despise organized crime, like mob, like
toxic
gangster.
masculinity
I hate
shit,
it.
yeah.
But if I were ever going to like it, it would be a matriarchal family of surfers in Southern California. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if I were going to like it, this is how I would like it. And so, no, I am positive and fond of the Norse, the Viking, the Scandinavian, all of that. Like, I even have some like Scandinavian ancestry. You are not the first to pass this way.
Yeah.
Nor shall you be the last.
We are like the
Maelstrom did not prepare me for this.
No, we are like the last. Well, it goes to like an oil rigging type of place at the end.
The Maelstrom, not the Northman.
No, yeah. But we are like the lone holdouts that like, we like the Frozen ride, but we were really into the Maelstrom.
We're not the last. There's plenty. There's dozens of us. I'm super, super bummed because it's also the like Norse stuff. All of it is sort of being co-opted by the wrong kind of people.
Woof,
and it really chaps my ass. So I don't, because part of me wants to defend it. Part of me wants to like.
Well, it's like a beautiful ancient culture that has a lot of really cool shit about it. And you're just doing it wrong.
But it's also brutal. Josh Brolin from Dune.
Oh yeah, that was messed up. Every time we're sort of dancing around a topic, there's this thing from the What We Do in the Shadows TV show where the Nadia, the woman, is like, we cannot even dare to speak his name, and then the other guy goes, I don't care, I'll say it, his name is Mike. And every time we're dancing around it, I just want to be like, yeah, it's those people.
It's like the alt-right. Yeah, they're sort of reclaiming it and reinventing it, and it's very funny in a sad and gross way.
Yeah,
if you look at the people and watch it, and it's like so. And I don't think this is
no, this is absolutely not propaganda. In that sense, and I do think you're right. I do think he is doing like a commentary on this like brutalistic way of living.
Well, because I was pretty drawn in by it.
Yeah.
It's a little, how long is it?
2 hours and 15 minutes.
It felt long.
Yeah.
I didn't get bored.
I don't think there were pacing issues. No, I just think some of it.
But I was aware that it was going. Yeah. But I did sort of wander my brain in interesting ways where I was like, man, could you actually imagine living this way? And but I think it's like this weird, like, vendetta that he has. It's like partially what keeps people alive and gives them reasons to live and stuff.
Sometimes this movie presents an excellent argument for just like doing whatever Bjork says. You should listen more specifically to Bjork.
I've never not seen Bjork and been like, wow, that's Bjork. She's the best at being Bjork of anyone I've ever seen. Like, I don't think anyone's better at being Bjork than Bjork is.
Also, fun fact, the guy who co-wrote this with Robert Eggers, his name is Sjón Sigurdsson, I think it was, also wrote Dancer in the Dark.
Okay. She's only in Bjork is only in like the one scene. That was another question I kind of had, and I did like the blurring of the lines where there were parts where I was like, is this like fantasy?
There was so much more magic than I thought there was going to be in a way that like made me really dig it. Cause this sort of was like halfway to where the Green Knight.
I was going to say it was in that. This is comparable to the Green Knight in that they both have Kate Dickie in it, and she doesn't do nearly enough.
So accurate. So accurate.
No, I can't imagine actually sitting down and watching this like a whole bunch. I would probably be fine never seeing it again. But I did enjoy it, and I do. It
is brutal.
And part of it does harken back to like in older epic studio films, even though it is very.
It's modern,
brutal, very graphic.
I was getting actually kind of Beowulf vibes from it a little.
Ton, yeah, a whole bunch. But the plot is, it's very Hamlet. It's very, and I'm going to use the actors' names, but it's young Alexander Skarsgård is the son of Ethan Hawke and Nicole Kidman. And then his uncle, Place Bang. Yeah,
Fjolnir. That's the one we can say. Apparently, Alexander Skarsgård's name should be pronounced with like a th at the end. Amleth. I was reading about the like language of it, and a bunch of them said it with a lispy th sound, and that's apparently not how it would have been pronounced.
Amlev.
Amlev. Yeah.
Well, regardless.
It was just interesting linguistics to me.
So his uncle comes in and kills his father and tries to kill him and doesn't succeed. And then he forgets for a while.
Slices the goddamn nose right off a guy.
And so
who forgets?
Alexander Skarsgård, he just sort of runs away and forgets for a while.
No, he doesn't forget. He's like training.
He seems like he forgets, because then Bjork was like, remember who you are, dingus.
Well.
And he was like, okay. But that's before the werewolf. That's after the werewolf bar mitzvah.
Correct.
Yes. In which they like, I didn't see that coming, where Ethan Hawke like took his tear and was like, this is the last tear you shed until you shed another tear, but then it'll be too late. And I was like, that was ominous. And he puts it in his hand, and then didn't Bjork give it back to him or something? Yeah,
it was Willem Dafoe that took it, because he was like priesting around.
What were they doing in the interim? Was it just raping and pillaging for funsies?
So that was another thing that was in the trivia, which this film takes place in the year 914, which I'm not even going to attempt to say the Scandinavian word, but it literally means the age of land taking. So yes, it was like the Viking expansion, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so basically he remembers who he is and decides to go off.
Doesn't listen to Bjork's other piece of advice.
What was it?
She said, like something about you'll have to make a decision between kindness or love for your kin and the like vengeance that you seek or whatever. And he fucking did not listen.
No, they rarely do.
Listen to Bjork.
There's so many points in this movie where I was like, man, I don't know what I would do if I was in this situation.
Even
and then
I would just literally never be caught
I was
in this
like,
situation.
I would have been dead entire years ago.
They would have caught me as a little boy and stabbed me and I'd be dead.
I would have just
I would have
succumbed to the elements.
Yeah, I would just never have gone back.
Yeah.
Bjork would have been like, remember who you are. And it'd be like, nah, I'm all set.
So he like gets trapped and it turns out that his uncle had to flee his kingdom because like another king came in and took it.
Yeah.
A lot of that happened if History Channel's Vikings is any indication.
Well, this is also, it is like generally real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I saw a lot of comments on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience comments were talking about how inaccurate it was. And I was like, I think this is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I think the places where it's not, it's certainly tonally accurate.
Yeah.
So apparently,
it was Herald of Norway.
Apparently there are entire sections of history that we think on like things like history and science is so sturdy, and apparently it's a lot more like than we're led to believe in elementary school in the 90s. So there's entire sections where it's like, well, maybe they did that, but it's like, and especially with some of the Scandinavian stuff, like I know for a fact there's like no real archaeological evidence that they ever did blood eagles, but they like write about it.
Yeah.
Or it's like depicted in art, but not really.
There's no like official sanctioned written down like we did this to X person on X day.
And so, because that's what I started with, where I was like, I couldn't remember if they did a lot of human sacrifice, because it's like for instance, in Greek mythology, it is frowned upon.
Human sacrifice.
Yeah, it's like,
well, that's why the priestess goes where I'll prepare a sacrifice. And I was thinking one of those millions of sheep that were everywhere. And then we cut back and a girl is hogtied on the ground. And I was like, oh, God.
So it's like they found evidence of that in a bog, but they don't know whether it was like must be Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or like it just sort of we don't actually kind of know some of this stuff.
Right.
Which I find interesting. So my point is, it's like most of the stuff from the movie, from what I was quickly researching, came from somewhere, even if it wasn't necessarily a depiction of day-to-day life.
Well, not to give anything away, and I guess mild spoilers for Midsummer, but like there's no indication that they ever did that right with the old people. It's been like it's the same as the Blood Eagle. It's written about and people talk about it, but there's no indication that that's something
we've never found evidence that it actually was done.
Ever people participated in. So it's like, but I mean, when you're making a movie like this, I don't know, human sacrifice feels like it's on the right path.
I was a little chafed. I'm not going to lie. I was a little chafed at the lack of nudity, especially the like puritanical, like, oh, well, we had to make sure that I could get through the MPAA. And I was like, well, you could cut two dudes apart and put them back together as a human centaur.
In the shape of a horse.
Yeah. I was like,
slice the heads off.
There's a lot of, if you're like sensitive to like animal violence, there's a whole lot of it.
Two horses and a dog. Oh, yeah, I guess.
They kill a bunch of dogs.
Well, we like actively see the one dog. And
there's
then,
a couple.
I mean, Alexander Skarsgård gets stabbed a ton. Like a lot and all over. By multiple people.
So he basically like joins a band of like enslaved people that were being taken to Iceland, where his uncle is now settled,
and they
like
were in
quasi kingdom.
They were in like modern day Russia when he joined the slaves.
Oh, interesting.
They kept on calling her a Slav bitch.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But also they were like certain that she was a Christian, but also she was maybe a witch, or she was actually pretty literally a witch.
Russians are Christian.
Okay.
But she's a witch. Well, like Russian Orthodox is like, yeah. She's, okay, her name is Olga of the Birchwood. That's a fucking witch name. She's doing earth magic and stuff. It's all great. And then she does like wind magic at the end. It's also pretty cool.
But there was a point where especially, you know, when the like son comes out and he was like, Mom says we need like 2 slaves for the house and a slave for this, that. And I was like, he's taking a lot on faith that his mother wants to be rescued. Yeah. Like, I literally was like, And so it turns out that's like the big twist, which it's not that I necessarily saw it coming, but I was like, this is a use of Nicole Kidman.
I didn't see it coming. I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I was like, that I don't know, like, that we would be using Nicole Kidman if there wasn't something else in the role or to the role.
Because otherwise she's just like a queen who then is just meekly allowing herself to be essentially raped in a marriage for 20 years.
Well, Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, but Stockholm wasn't even a city yet.
Denial's not just a river in Egypt.
No, I don't know. I just sort. You're right. I sort of was like, if we're not taking this to a psychosexual place with Alexander Skarsgård, are we really truly living in Robert Eggers' world?
Well, because also she would have been like 60 by the time it was.
It depends on how young she was taken by the king.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. She gets the kind of monologue this time. Yeah. It's not nearly as majestic as Willem Dafoe's from Lighthouse, but it's like similar. And there's a point where I could feel the audience recoiling, that they were like, oh no, she's gonna kiss him. And I'm like, at this point, if she doesn't I'm gonna riot. Like, it was a go for broke. Like she was. It was a little Angelina and Alexander.
Also, he like goes with it for like longer than I thought he would.
Again, the times, like, this has been his entire reason for living.
Sure.
There's like Greek tragedies written about this sort of thing. There's
way Greek tragedy shit written about it, but yeah.
I think, because also the other thing is, if I had survived up until adulthood in this reality, I would just be in the Stockholm syndrome. Like, I would just be like, you know what, this is actually pretty great.
Yeah.
Because he ended up saving his like one half brother.
Yeah.
And part of me, I don't know. I did find it interesting. And I do.
Well, that one guy, they were like hurling or whatever that sport is called. And the one guy was going to use the boy's head as like a croquet thing. It was the Mountain, by the way, from Game of Thrones. Yeah.
So his mother was sort of like, she got no tears left to cry.
Yeah, she's like, I hated your father, and because he branded himself as a slave, and she was like, I was his slave, and then he like made me a queen, and and I never loved him, and he never loved me.
She put the order to kill him. She was like, precisely so I never had to do this exact thing.
And she was like, you were forced upon me, and we chose to have Gunnar and all this stuff, and I was like.
Which in hindsight, the first that we see her, he's like barging into her room, changing, and she's like, knock first, like don't come in unless I ask you. And I was like, that now makes a little bit more sense. Yeah. But so he kills her and his
half brother,
both of his half brothers.
Well, he's not half brothers with the other one.
Sure, step brother,
cousin.
I don't know how families work.
His uncle's child.
Spare me your middle class morality.
Who that guy, by the way, had an excellent nose.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was so excellent. I don't know.
He was a little too poncy in the movie.
Thorir the Proud, I think. Yeah, excellent nose. His name is Gustav Lind.
But and so he like strikes up this romance with Olga. She gets a really good line reading. It's sort of akin to 300, the "you will not enjoy this" type of a thing. Do you want to get into it?
Well, okay. Fjolnir takes a shine to her. And at first I thought it was because she like reminded him of Nicole Kidman. Like,
I think Anya Taylor-Joy is just beautiful in any time and place.
He talks about her hair looking like a Valkyrie and stuff. But so before Nicole Kidman makes the turn, that was what I was interpreting, is that he was like, she was appealing because he couldn't have Nicole Kidman anymore. Like, she was being cold to him or something. So anyway, he comes to her in the like women's quarters, and he's gonna try to have sex with her. And she like lifts up her skirts, and you can see she's on her period. And he's like, do you think that's going to bother me? And so she grabs it and then puts it on his face. And the guy in front of us in the movie theater was like, ah! It was so funny. And then later he's like about to slit her throat and she's like, I see woman's blood doesn't
scare you anymore.
Incredible.
It was pretty good.
Also, I'm in that, I kept on thinking that meme in my head where it's like, it's always WYD, like what you doing, and never like this. And there's always like a really long string of letters that are like the words of a crazy thing. And I kept thinking that when Alexander Skarsgård was like, I'll give you back the heart, but only in exchange for her life. And I was like, it's never that. Like,
another thing for my viewing was I just knew, I knew from press that this movie ended with like a naked blood fight on a volcano. So for me, there was no other way it could end. So I didn't even consider the advice that Bjork had given him and that he should have just left with Olga. I was like, oh, that is an option.
Yeah.
So she was mad about it.
Olga?
Yeah.
Olga was furious. And then she invoked the wind and then she's going to plant a birch forest and birth his twins.
I imagined this being a little bit more thoughtful, our conversation about it. I did. I genuinely did enjoy it. I mean, it was the kind of Scandinavian nonsense that I wanted. We had, a witch and a zombie and a Valkyrie with braces and
no, it's teeth carvings.
Apparently they would file their teeth and fill it with like sap or something. But no, I did. I liked it. And like I said, I think it is a little bit an indictment of the times and a certain type of masculinity that much like 300, much like Fight Club, much like that I think a certain type of people are going to
totally misinterpret the text,
perceive it as an endorsement.
Yeah. Also, I just sort of can't express how matrilineal a lot of these cultures were. Like matriarchal. And
so there was a female warrior when they were doing like raiding and like, which is it, for my understanding, it was not common, but it was absolutely not unheard of.
Yeah. But also it's like you mentioned 300 and it's like there were so many rules like protecting women and stuff like that. And it's just sort of, I don't know. It was a very like just as pro as they could be at the time, like a pro woman and like anti-toxic bullshit time. And I'm just like,
So I enjoyed it. It was cool. Like I said, it was like a modern day old fashioned epic. Like a
I think The Witch is still my favorite of his.
Yeah, but
I like them all differently. I'd like to watch The Lighthouse again. I've still only seen it once.
Good luck with that.
You're all
good.
set.
Yeah, I forgot he did give me mermaids.
Yeah.
So
and a Valkyrie now. She was cool.
Maybe I'm all in.
Yeah. Great. Apparently he's working on something Elizabethan. So I'm excited for whatever that's going to be.
So, okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed. Like and subscribe and all of that jazz.
You can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching, Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. Just let us know what you think.
More throat singing.
That guy apparently actually learned to throat sing for this movie.
Really?
Yeah.